63% of construction workers want to leave the industry, and 64% say they work over 50 hours per week. The connection seems obvious, work-life balance, but for me, it's not that simple. Some of the best projects I've worked on, I was at work every day before 6 a.m. and I'd leave work at 6 p.m. in the evening. For me, what really matters in a job is learning, to feel like I'm constantly improving and getting better. If you're like me and see personal development and growth as one of the key benefits of any job, then you're going to resonate with these 5 things I hate about working in the construction industry. In this video, I'm going to go through 5 things I hate about working in the construction industry and give you some tips on how you can avoid these. Number 1, long hours at site doing nothing. Okay, so while I said work-life balance wasn't necessarily an issue for me, I qualified this by saying the thing I look for in any particular job is my rate of learning. The problem with construction projects is you're expected to spend long hours at work even if you've got nothing to do. Pre-start is at 7 a.m. and work finishes at 5 p.m. Usually you're expected to attend some sort of pre-daily coordination meeting at 6:45 a.m. and then you'll also be expected to attend some sort of afternoon coordination meeting. Even if you're not busy, you're expected to be at site for all of these hours while works are going on, and that quite often means weekends as well. A lot of the time at work, people don't have much to do, so they sit around chatting, wasting time. Now, this isn't necessarily a problem. It can be a lot of fun in the office, but I would say focus on learning to be proactive when you're at work. Focus on looking ahead, planning, trying to do more and more and more so you can always make sure you're learning. The second thing I hate about working in the construction industry is all the admin work. Signing ITPs, cost tracking, daily diaries, the list of repetitive, boring tasks that you're just expected to do goes on and on and on. The really unfortunate thing about the construction industry is that this boring, repetitive work is actually incredibly important. It's not interesting, it's not creative, it's not fun, but it needs to be done. While it's not fun or exciting, something that helped me a lot was blocking out an hour or 2 every afternoon just to go through these boring daily tasks. The third thing I hate is the work I call the boring but stressful work. These are the little annoying, tedious, typically admin tasks that always completely blow out of proportion and end up being massive issues. Not having permits ready, someone forgetting to put through a purchase order, somebody losing a small part or tool or something minor, or losing a couple of delivery dockets when you need to approve an invoice. All these issues can blow out of proportion, and I've seen every single one of these things cause headaches like you wouldn't believe. I remember this one project I was working on and we were getting ready to do some earthworks in a car park. I thought I'd had all the excavation permits ready, but the day before when I got the permit coordinator, or I thought I'd got the permit coordinator to sign the permit, he hadn't clicked save in the system. So the next morning, I arrived to work, I go to give the workers a permit, but it didn't have a signature on it, so we weren't approved to dig. That day, the permit coordinator was off, so I had to call around all these different people to try and work out who could approve the permit, even though he'd already in principle approved it, but he was off sick that day. And the entire time my phone was going off, I was getting asked where the permit was. All these people were standing around doing nothing, racking up the delay costs, and I was frantically looking for someone to sign my permit, even though it had already been signed the day before. Chasing a signature while your phone's going off every couple of minutes is the exact type of work I refer to as the boring but stressful work. Stuff like this happens every single day on construction projects. The small, tedious little admin jobs that people haven't done correctly, people haven't followed the process, people have got lazy, always turn into massive issues. And that's why, going back to the second thing I hate about the construction industry, that's why staying on top of these boring bits of admin work, focusing on systems, making sure all these little tasks are done is so absolutely vital and critical. I'm someone who really struggles with this because I know one of my biggest weaknesses is I'm careless and I don't have good attention to detail. But the way I deal with this, the way I like to think about it, is I like to think of these things as systems. Whenever something goes wrong, I always try to focus on how can I improve the system. Number 4 of what I hate about the construction industry is learned helplessness. This is a term my mum gave me that I absolutely love. And what does it mean? It means when somebody learns if they don't do something, somebody else will cover for them. For example, I used to work with a supervisor and I used to help him out by doing his purchase orders. But then he slowly stopped following up with suppliers, getting quotes for new goods, and all these little bits and pieces that I slowly kept taking on, and all of a sudden I was doing all the procurement and he was doing nothing. Now, again, this is something I really struggle with because I personally, in those situations, I find it hard to let things fail, but I also find it hard to push back against being asked to help out. I've learned the only way to counter this is be willing to set boundaries, but also be willing for things to fail. The 5th and final thing I find hard about working in the construction industry is the lack of progression. A lot of people I work with have been in the same position for 10 or 15 years, and they're perfectly happy with that, which is fine, particularly at big companies. But if that's not what you want, you constantly have to be looking for and pushing for your next role and your next promotion. You have to be really self-motivated to do this. So what I'd recommend doing is make a 2 to 3 to 5 year career plan, work out jobs you want to get, how they suit, where you want to be in 5 years, and then you just really have to push for and pursue the correct roles for you. In summary, while the construction industry is great and I absolutely love working on it, there are some negatives and you need to be proactive with how you deal with these. For me, it's the admin work, it's the boring but stressful work, and it's the long hours at site when you've got nothing to do. If I could go back in time to the start of my construction management career, there's some things I would do to address these sorts of problems in the construction industry. So if you're interested to know what advice I would give my former self to get ahead in the construction industry faster, then watch this video next.